Yes,
I
yes,
am
he is in the
checking
meeting.
that. Yes,
Hello,
he's in the
Richard, sir.
meeting.
Yes,
Yeah.
can you hear?
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very welcome. I can hear you, but I can't see you. That's why we were waiting for you.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Welcome,
yes.
sir.
Yes,
So,
I had.
yes. Shall I start?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome, Suswagatam, Ola, and very good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening to all of you. My name is Suchita, and it is our pleasure to welcome you all. We, like Manjusha and I, would like to extend a special welcome to our speakers, Dr. Richard Smith, sir, and Dr. Ujjwal Karvande, sir. They would shed some light on action research, the most talked about subject nowadays. Accept our heartfelt welcome, Ms. Mariana Sera, Madam, and Mr. Ruben Mazi, sir. And most importantly, you, all the project participants, you are amazing. You are our driving force. Your passion to learn and grow better makes us walk an extra mile. So thank you all for joining. Now I want to welcome our first speaker of the day. A mentor is defined as a man of wisdom, a man of intellect, and a model for impact. I'm very proud to announce our keynote speaker, Dr. Ujjwal Karvande sir, a hardcore mentor, is our keynote speaker today. Dr. Ujjwal sir needs no introduction for his works in ELT, for SIM, for Maharashtra, does the same for him. But still I dare to introduce him, so please allow me. Maharashtra is a leading state in India for ELT practices. As far as the ELT practices are concerned, SIM has lion's share in it. Being an HOD of English department, Dr. Karvande sir has been the prime mover of many interventions across Maharashtra. Some of his huge commissions include leading participation in Spoken English and Advanced Spoken English project, ECLERM, that is the English language kit development for self-learning material, and MOOC. His visionary and his contributions for the development of English environment across the state through his academic support to various other projects such as Pages and Chess. He has 5 major action researches on his credit. His other contributions are, he is the former BOS member. He has a lion's share in the tool development of NAS, that is National Achievement Survey. He is the key resource person at various levels for state projects. So without wasting much time, I would like to request Mr. Ujjwal Karvande sir to share his knowledge with us. Over to you, Mr. Ujjwal Karvande sir.
Thank you, Suchita. Very good evening and a very good morning to all our respected guests, and a very good evening to all the dear participants who have dared starting their action research. So I would like to begin with congratulating them, because generally people don't dare starting an action research. I would like to share a small presentation here. Is my screen visible?
Not yet.
Not yet, sir.
Okay, I'm struggling a bit. Yes. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very much clear.
Okay. So a big congratulations to all those teachers who have decided, first of all, to start an action research. And I would like to congratulate them because it's my experience and it's the general experience that people don't like doing any research. And that's why I would like to begin with congratulating all those teachers who have dared starting action research. Well, in this very short session, I'm not going to discuss much about action research. Here are some basics that I want to discuss with you all. I would like to begin with this question. Have you ever done any research study before this one? I would request all the participants to type in the chat box, and I request you, Suchita, to monitor the chat box, please.
Yes, sir.
Not yet. Yes, no. I see there are very mixed responses are there. Some of them have
Into
done, some of them haven't yet.
as far as I could read, there are 8 participants who told ninth one, 10th one. They said that they had done the research. Yes, the 10
Okay.
participants, as far as they said.
Okay, so there's a question mark on if they have done any research or any research study. I'm not saying just in action research or any study. Well, what are your perceptions about research? I'll be very happy if you could share your perceptions about research. What do you think when you think of research, the very word research? What comes to your mind? Please type in the chat box. Academic research, formal research, a very long process. Okay, discovering something new, academic, solutions for problems, excellent. Okay, too much data collection. That's great, that's great. Thank you, thank you. Thanks for responding. When I started of my first research, I also had some perceptions in my mind. And what were those perceptions? Let's see. It's the business of scientists, very scholarly people. It's a very difficult task. It involves very complex statistics. It is done to earn a PhD degree. There are very strict rules to do a research study. A research study requires too many tools. You need to study a lot of literature, and writing a research report requires a lot of skills and knowledge. These were my perceptions when I started doing my first research study. Well, my dear friends, at this juncture, I would like to say that many of these perceptions are wrong. I dare say this after getting some experience in doing research. Well, of course, yes, when you are doing some research study for an university, then you need to follow certain rules. But I would definitely say that it's not the business of only scientists or very scholarly people. Even the people like you and me can do it. It's not a very difficult task at all. Anybody who has the wish can do an action research study. It involves very complex statistics, not necessarily every time. Especially when you are doing a basic research study, which you claim that it is applicable universally, then you need to do some statistics, some statistical analysis. Otherwise, if you are doing any action research, then you need not do very complex statistics. It's not like that that you do a research only to earn a PhD degree. You can do a research for your self-satisfaction too. There are some rules which we need to follow when we do a study very systematically. A research study requires too many tools? No. A very few tools also can help us to do a research study. And the study of literature, related literature, can help you in a better way, but it's not necessary to do a lot of literature study. And writing a research report, I don't think it requires a lot of skills and knowledge. So these were my perceptions when I started doing my first research study. But later on, I found out that my perceptions were wrong. Okay, my next question to you is, do you do action research regularly? Don't tell me the answer right now. Write the answer to this question in your notebook somewhere. We'll see at the end if we do the action research regularly or not. For the time being, you just note down your answer somewhere in your notebook. Let's start with understanding what is an action research. Probably this will help us to decide if we are doing action research regularly or not. Well, a systematic and scientific approach to solving problem we face in our profession. That is all. That's action research. I see that our teachers are very innovative. So whenever they face any problem, they immediately start doing something new, trying different solutions in their classroom and overcoming their problems. I would say, in a way, they are doing some action research. It may be systematic, it may not be systematic, but definitely I'm of the view that everyone is doing at least doing some actions to overcome their problems. And that's the modest beginning of the action research. Well, there is a difference. Definitely, there is some difference between the basic research and an action research. So, what is the difference? Let's see. Well, a basic research is done to find out something new or to add to knowledge, whereas an action research is done purely to overcome your problems. There is no intention to add to the knowledge, or you are not finding something new. You are not doing it intentionally to find out something new when you are doing an action research. It's very simple. When you are facing some problems and you are trying to overcome those problems very systematically, that is action research. The second basic difference that we found is that a basic research can involve a survey, or it also may involve a documentary analysis or an experiment. Whereas in action research invariably involves an experiment. We have to do an experiment and find out if the problems are overcome or not. The third difference, the basic difference that we see between an action research and a basic research is that a basic research may be done for self or for other people too. Whereas an action research is always done to overcome our own problems. We cannot do an action research to overcome the problems the other people are facing. We can do an action research to overcome our own problems, not of the others. A basic research may end in a partial or complete failure. Interesting, isn't it? But an action research ends with a successful solution to the problem under study. Unless and until the problem is solved, the action research doesn't end. Whereas in a basic research, uh, you may test the hypothesis, but at the end, you may end up with a failure or a partial failure. You are not always successful in a basic research. The findings of a basic research are universally true, whereas those of an action research may not be. The findings of action research can be applicable in the similar situation in which the action research is done. But still, as the sample differs, we cannot guarantee that the findings of an action research applies to a similar situation. But because of the way in which the sample is selected in the basic research, the findings are applicable universally. So these are the basic differences between an action research and a basic research. Now let's see what are the different steps included in the process of an action research study. It begins with the awareness of the problem that makes you restless. It happens all the time that when you are doing your job, you face certain problems. There are certain very small problems which do not trouble you, but there are some major problems which make you very restless, and you start exploring different resources to overcome those problems. So that is the beginning of your action research. So every action research begins with the awareness of that problem which makes you restless. Searching out if anybody has overcome the same or the similar problem. So the next step is that when you face a problem that makes you restless, you start for searching if somebody else has done something to overcome those problems. And that way you start exploring different studies if somebody has faced the same problem or the similar problem. And then if you find that somebody has done some study and has found some solutions to the problem, then you start studying what the other people have done to overcome the same problem or the similar problems. If the same problem is faced by other people, then you try to apply what the person has done and you try to overcome the problem. Then the next step comes is that finding out various possible solutions to the problems. But if you see that the problem you are facing is not faced by somebody else, any other person who has done some other research work, some other action research, but it's possible that though the same problem is not handled, but some similar problem is handled. And in that case, you find out various solutions to your problems which can solve your problems. And for this, you also study some literature. You try to find solutions from different sources. So this helps to form, I would say, the action plan that you decide before starting your research, your action research. So once you come up with the possible solutions to your problems, then you try out those different solutions one by one till the problem is overcome. Remember, this is very important. As I have said earlier, an action research ends only when the whole problem is eradicated. We can have many cycles. For example, if you have found out many solutions, so you can try out the first solution, then the problem may be partially solved, and then you try out another solution. This is that's why it is said that action research is a cyclic process. It has many cycles. So if the whole problem is now solved in your first tryout, then you try out the other ideas or other solutions. According to Kurt Lewin, this is the cyclic process, and it ends only when the whole problem is solved. Writing a report to help others facing the same problem. Actually, writing a report is not compulsory thing, but it is done to help others. When others read your research report, so they also come to know what you did to overcome the problem, and this can help other people to overcome their problems. That's why it is considered necessary that the report of your action research should be done. So if we look at these different steps, that these are very broad steps. So if you look at different broad steps in an action research, you will definitely see that this is not the business of only the scientists or very scholarly people. Anybody can do it. And I would say that everyone does it, isn't it? So again, I come to the same question now. Do you do action research regularly? If you are facing problems regularly, then I'm sure you are doing the action research regularly. You may not write a report of it, you may not do it systematically, but definitely you try to find solutions to the problems which make you very restless. And that, I think, is an action research. On this note, I'll stop sharing. I'll stop expressing my views about the action research, and it's back over to you, Suchita. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ujjwal sir. It was a deep diving in the action research as such. And now I would like to request Manjusha ma'am to give a brief introduction of Mr. Richard Smith sir and invite him for his talk. Over to you, Manjusha ma'am.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I am honored and lucky to have the opportunity to introduce the monarch of exploratory teacher research at all around the globe, that is Dr. Richard Smith. Dr. Richard Smith is a reader in ELT and applied linguistics at the University of Warwick. His own research has been in the fields of ELT history, teaching in different circumstances, and learner and teacher autonomy. He has coordinator of IITFL Research SIG between 2015 and co-convener in 2015 to 2020. He has also coordinated ELT research capacity building projects in the UK and India, and is academic advisor to several teacher research mentoring schemes in Latin America and South Asia. His recent relevant publications include Teacher Research, Developing Insights into Teacher Research Champion Teachers, Stories of Exploratory Action Research, Teaching in Low Resource Classroom, Voices of Experience, and a handbook for exploratory action research. For the last few years, in January to February, the TESOL call is Electronic Village Online has been organizing a 5-week session on classroom-based research for professional development where volunteers, mentors, anyone who joined there, and to anyone. Teachers could also form a self-help group to give one another support for everyone. INET, All India Network for English Teachers, did a few years ago, and INET has taken the initiative for teacher research mentoring also. He thinks teacher need to be encouraged to see what they already do, as research shown how they can build their existing practice to improve, to share it. Teachers who reflect and ask themselves questions but don't gather data can be shown how doing so could help them answer the questions they have. And those who aren't used to self-questioning can be encouraged to do so via dialogues with mentors as a first step in research projects process. In all their cases, a mentor or other forms guidance, for instance, via reader-friendly guidance material can be helpful. He thinks that teacher associations have a major role to play in promoting and supporting teacher research. Now, I request Dr. Richard Smith to give his thoughts on and guide us. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Manjusha. Thank you, Suchita, for inviting me, both of you. I have been working with you both very nicely over the last few months, and you are doing very great work with the teachers in Maharashtra, and I congratulate you. I congratulate all of the teachers. I'd also like to say thank you, Dr. Karawande, for your very nice introduction to action research, very down to earth and clear explanation. And it was very nice. So it's very nice to be here with you all at the beginning. I believe at the beginning of an exciting time when you are going to be engaging in some teacher research projects. So I'm going to give you a talk which I would call an invitation to exploratory action research. I think you can see that. I believe you can. If you can't, you'll please let me know.
Yes, we can see it, Richard.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Mariana, and hello, Ruben, as well. So very nice to talk to you. I believe you already know something about action research, and you've had a very good introduction there just now. So I'm going to be mainly focusing on something I call exploratory action research, which I have developed with teachers in India and Nepal, as well as Latin America. So as Dr. Karawande mentioned, the images that teachers may have of research are usually that research is not really for them. Research is not for something that is relevant to teachers' lives. They think it is for academics or scientists like this woman who are doing research, especially you think of natural science like biology or physics or something like that. Or also maybe you think of research as something very burdensome, something maybe you did or you were encouraged to do at university, perhaps, reading lots of books, writing a report, and you may think that you don't have time for this. You think of it as something that's very time-consuming. Well, as the previous speaker mentioned, I don't think we should think about research like this. We don't have to think of research like this. We can actually think that research, and I'm just agreeing basically with the former speaker, that we can think of research in a different way, as something that really is much closer to our lives, something that we do engage in. And just picking up on the point made by Dr. Karawande, if you ever had a problem in your classroom, and we are always trying to solve problems as teachers. We have many, many issues and many problems. Sometimes we are like an octopus with many legs, trying to solve this problem, try to solve that problem, try to solve that problem. Now, we tend to be like that. We think we are great problem solvers, actually. But what we are encouraging, I think, with action research is, to reflect, to step back if we can, and to investigate a little bit, find out a little bit more than usual, so that we can actually have better solutions. Right. So research is something that we do actually do. If you ever had a problem and you maybe asked a colleague, for example, what they would do in the same situation, or if you ever had a problem and you couldn't solve the problem yourself, so you went to try to discover some solution on the internet, or maybe you even asked students to give you some feedback about the problem, well, then you've been doing research. You've been trying to do research. The kind of situation in which teachers can do research, as I've been working with teachers in, are not at universities. They are in schools like this, and it's primary school, schools that you may be familiar with. So this is just to say that teachers, even in such circumstances, can do research and can find that it is useful and practical. So I'm emphasizing, like Dr. Karawande, the practical nature of research, that it's something very practical and useful for teachers. It can be, anyway. It depends on the kind of research that we are imagining. So the kind of research we are imagining is something which is useful. It is possible for teachers, even very busy teachers like yourselves, busy teachers with large classrooms like these. And those were in South Asia. That was Pakistan. These that was Nepal. Okay, I think this was India, but also in classrooms in other countries. They are very different, of course. Every place, in fact, every part of India is different from the other. And I was very happy to be able to visit India a number of times in the past. But the diversity of India, is amazing. So every place, Maharashtra is such a big state. I know it's like a European country, how big it is. Everywhere is different, but classrooms around the world, even though they are very different, they do share some similarities in countries of the global south, where there may not be many technological resources. There are often benches like this. This is a country in Africa. That was in Latin America somewhere. Secondary schools, primary schools. They have, I would suggest, have been rather neglected by researchers in universities in the USA or the UK or other countries. We haven't really done enough research in universities to help teachers in these kinds of classroom. And so we need to do research as teachers. I'm on the side of you as teachers, because you may not be able to find solutions to your problems anyway in the kind of research that academics have done. Well, let's start with a little definition of research in general. I try to use very down-to-earth definitions. Original investigation undertaken in order to gain knowledge and understanding is one brief definition. But I agree with the last speaker that you don't have to be original in the sense that it has to contribute to the wider world. It just has to be original in your own understanding. In other words, something new that you are going to learn for yourself, something that you haven't found before. I think we can think of it in this way. And you're going to gain knowledge, you're going to gain understanding. And it's different from just reflecting about your situation, because of course that's very useful and important as well. Instead of being an octopus, if you can step back and think about what is going on, just thinking can be very, very useful if you have the time. But I'm suggesting that actually doing research, which means getting data. So I try to avoid using technical words when I'm explaining research to teachers. We don't need to use lots of jargon, but because I think that just makes teachers even more think that research is not for them. So I'm trying to talk about it in a practical, down-to-earth way. But I think the word data is quite useful, because data is information that you get to try to answer a question. So research involves formulating a question. It involves then gathering necessary information, which we might call data. We could call it evidence, but I like to say data. It's information to answer a question. And then interpreting this information in relation to the question. So when you've gathered data, what does the data mean? In other words, what is the answer to your question? So I think you can see here, let me just give an example of everyday life. We do research in our everyday life, outside teaching as well. Let's say you want to travel to Delhi, and you are wondering, shall I travel by train? Shall I travel by airplane? Which airline company shall I take? Which train shall I take? These are questions. These are real life questions you're starting with. You maybe have some criteria in your mind, like price or speed or comfort. So you're going to gather information about which is more expensive, most expensive, which is the fastest, which is the most comfortable class, for example. And then you can answer your question. So you've gathered data and you're going to interpret the data to answer your question. something that we do in everyday life. But we must think about research from the point of view of teachers. And we're thinking about research which reflects teachers' priorities and not academics. Academics have their own lives, they have their own journals. They don't necessarily do things for teachers, they do things also for their own careers or for developing knowledge in general. But we're talking about teacher research, we're talking about practitioner research. Example from a teacher in India: I have too much homework to mark. With a large class of students, it's impossible to give effective feedback to everyone. Have you experienced that problem? You may want to say yes or no in the chat. We encourage teachers to turn a problem. We have so many problems. We encourage them to turn them into questions as a starting point for research, or a starting point for finding solutions, because this is a very powerful thing to do, to start to think of your life, or your life as a teacher, in terms of questions rather than problems. We know how many problems teachers have, and if teachers can start to think about their lives, think about their jobs as a set of questions and not just as a set of problems, it can be quite empowering just to try to turn your problems into questions, simply into how can I questions. And please note, we encourage the teacher to ask, how can I provide feedback to students, not just how to provide feedback to students in general, but how can I, in my classroom, because all classrooms are different, and this is why teacher research is necessary, and this is why academic research cannot provide all the answers, because all classrooms are different, all contexts are different. So the question that we want the teacher to ask is, how can I provide feedback to my students? What different forms of feedback can I use? These are two questions, quite practical questions. Another one, you might say, all of you might think, what are my problems? What are the problems I'm facing at the moment? And how can I turn them into questions like this? Practical questions, questions about practical solutions. I'd like to see the chat because, yes, I can now. Yeah. So another one. It's difficult to promote active learning. Please do write in the chat. Now I can see it. If you have any questions or comments as we go along to one another. Okay. So the other one that this teacher had was she doesn't have many resources in the classroom, and textbooks are limited. How can I help students to be active in their learning without using such resources? Maybe you can see how you can turn something which is a problem into a positive question, a positive way forward. And in the pandemic times, of course, we have new issues, we have new problems. But we can address problems in the same way. So not all students participate in an online environment, for example. I know that this is a common issue. So I think maybe in very difficult circumstances like we face now, I personally think research can be even more important, because we have so many important problems that we don't know the answers to. We turn them into questions first of all as a starting point. So another one would be that I'm sure that this is true in your circumstance. Not all students have good internet access. Some do, some don't, maybe. But how can I reach those students who have poor internet access? And in a workshop we do with teachers, the next step is sometimes that I ask the teachers to think about how can you answer these questions. How can you start to answer these questions by asking other teachers? Because that's one method, is to go and get advice, go and ask other teachers. That's research, to find answers. Because these days, actually, it's teachers who are in the lead, really. Academics at university can't answer these questions, but teachers are finding great ways to solve these issues, like Mariana in Argentina, who I can see, and you even so far away as Argentina.
Yes.
Yeah, you can. Have you found any ways of, for example, reaching those students who don't have access to internet?
Oh, yes, Richard. Hello, everyone. You know that I work in a rural school in the province of Buenos Aires, Argentina. And we have tried lots of ways. In the village where I work, there's only one supermarket, and the headmaster of my school took a box there. So we send by email our activities to the headmaster. He prints them, leaves them at the supermarket. Students complete them and put them back in that box. Then that box, the headmaster takes all the pieces of work and brings them to my city, which is 20 kilometers away from that village, and we correct and write comments, suggestions to the students. So then all the pieces of work are delivered to those students in the village. That's one way, by WhatsApp, a Google Classroom, with the others, the ones who have connection. We have tried everything, Richard.
Well, thank you, Marion. I know that teachers are being very, very resourceful, and
Yes.
some of you might want to share your own things that you are doing. Because I really think that teachers asking questions to one another is a fantastic way of finding solutions. And it is from other teachers that you can find answers, as well as from your students, of course, finding answers from them. So let's move on to that later on, and finding out from how they are doing, etc. So, what is teacher research then? It's and not just action research, but teacher research in general. It's research that's initiated and carried out by teachers into issues of importance to them in their own work. It's not research done about teachers. It's done by you as teachers, addressing questions that arise from your practice by gathering data. First of all, by asking yourself questions, then by gathering data, analyzing it, and sharing what you find. As the previous speaker said, you don't have to write report. I agree. I want to get away from this idea that you need to write a report, because it's something that makes teachers very nervous about research. You don't have to, because you can share in other ways. For example, by talking, or with a poster, sharing with colleagues, for example, by speaking. Something came onto my screen. I'm not sure how to get rid of that. Anyway, research by teachers, for teachers and their students. Thank you. As by teachers, for teachers and their students. Yes, we can provide the PowerPoints later. So the British Council Champion Teachers Programme in Latin America is how I developed my ideas about exploratory action research as a practical way for teachers to get into doing action research. And here is just one of the priorities of those teachers I was working with in that 7 years ago in Chile, in Latin America. They got into groups. There were about 80 teachers in the room. They got into groups and they decided what their main problems were. And a group of them thought this was the main issue for them. How can we involve parents into the English learning process of their children? So even though it's so far away from India, I expect that this is an issue that many of you think is an important one. And it is an important one, especially these days in pandemic times. If we knew the answers to this question, that would solve a lot of that teacher's problems about this. So please don't write on the screen, please. If you could remove those now. I'm not sure why you're doing that. Thank you. So this was an important problem, and it's an issue, a problem or question that academics haven't really discovered the answers to, but they could then go, and what they did was they went and talked to parents. They decided to go and interview parents, do a questionnaire with parents, and find out what the parents thought they should be doing. Just one example of a very practical issue. in India and Nepal, that was British Council, and British Council also had a project in India and Nepal as well. It's called the Action Research Mentoring Scheme, and I think Manjusha may have taken part in that, and some of you may have taken part in it. The aim of the scheme was to empower mentors to support teachers to investigate their classrooms. And there were over 40 mentors who supported 230 teacher researchers. And here was just one of the, you see, they were sharing posters. They didn't have to write a report. They also didn't have to read very much because they were finding the answers from, can I ask you to not write on the screen, whoever is doing that? It's a bit distracting. So they could find answers by interviewing other teachers, by asking students for their perspectives. Here's one of those Indian questions. Why students do cheating in the exam? Why do students do cheating in the exam? Because that was an issue many of the teachers, or one of the teachers, faced. A very original issue, actually, but a very important issue. Tried to find answers through group discussions with students, interviewing other teachers, and questionnaire. That's just to show you that the questions that the problems or questions that you start with are very practical and very important issues for teachers. Here is another teacher just presenting her final findings, showing you that you don't have to think about writing a report. It can be a presentation. This is a teacher from Chile, just to share with you that teachers themselves found it useful. And this one is Mauro. He's saying that after the end of his project, he said action research is important because it lights a spark in the darkness of the system. It lights a spark in the mentality of the people who do not want to change. And it lights a spark in the school by making people believe they own the changes that can be made in any learning environment. He had a very strong sense that it was empowering for him. Okay. And by the end, before I talk to you, share some examples, which is what I want to do just the rest of the presentation. Some of the stories of teachers from secondary school in in Chile are published in these books, and they are available for free online. I'm on every slide here. I'm putting a little. I'm not doing that myself. That's somebody else is doing that on the screen. This email link, this web address at the bottom. Thank you. Exactly. So this link at the bottom of the screen on each slide is somewhere that you can go to find access to these resources. So I can perhaps put that into the chat box as well. So there is a link. Now I'm going to take an example from the Nepal one on the right. And this is an example of Shova Shahi. And her name is Shova. She's a teacher in a large class. Because I've worked quite a lot recently. Could I please ask the person who's writing to stop that on the screen? Interesting. So I wonder who that is.
Sorry, Richard. Sorry, Richard. I will check if I can identify the person. All right.
Okay.
There are. May I take some time? There are two persons who haven't mentioned their name, and I'm repeatedly asking them to put their names in their identity so that I can identify them. So if they don't mention their name, I will remove them. This is the last time I'm asking them.
Yes, or Suchita, sorry for the interruption, but in the annotation in the bar of the top, you have the option to disable these annotations.
Okay, you are co-host, sir. So may I ask you to do that for us?
Thank you.
Okay,
Rupert.
I will check that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Please continue, sir.
Okay, I will. So that's called Zoom bombing, isn't it? I've never experienced it before. So yeah, so Shova Shahi's story as a simple example of a teacher who carries out a project. Oops. Let me find my slides. Sorry. Okay, I'm giving you access, Ruben. Yes, so Shova has this problem. She has a large class of students, so she has 89 students in her classroom, and it was very difficult for her to manage such a large classroom. She tried many things, and it came from, for example, changing the seats of students every day, or giving students monitors particular responsibility, or even dividing students into different groups. So she tried many different things as like an octopus, trying these, solving problems, but she didn't manage to solve the problem. This is her classroom in Nepal. And we encouraged Shova to think of some exploratory research questions to try to understand the problem before she tried out any new action. And this is where I start to think about exploratory action research, exploring the issue before moving into action. So before she could actually solve this, she asked questions like, what difficulties do I have in the class? What particular difficulties do I have in the class? And what causes the disturbance in the classroom? This is what we asked her to consider. And in order to find the answers, we asked her to get she asked a colleague to go and observe her classroom. And she also took some self-observation notes. So these are very simple research methods in order to answer the questions before going into some kind of new action. Okay. What did the colleague say? The colleague said, well, actually, most of the students were paying attention. And this was surprising for her. She thought the whole class was not paying enough attention. In fact, it was the students sitting near the windows who were the problem. And they were looking outside and they were talking to others about what they were seeing outside the class. And others were talking about them, basically, or talking about those friends who were looking outside the windows. So for the first time, she managed to identify the real problem. And so she came to the conclusion that students looking outside through the windows and side talking were the main cause of the disturbance in the classroom. She then went into her plan for action, which was to give more responsibilities to the students sitting by the windows and the side talkers, and to move close to the students who were talking unnecessarily with their friends. So you see her here in this picture doing exactly that, moving closer. So very simple research, very simple plan of action, but it was based on the fact that she understood the situation, she understood the problem for the first time. So her action was more appropriate. And she said that actually the situation has changed drastically. Students don't talk unnecessarily anymore. They still do talk. They haven't stopped side talking. They would be angels if they had actually changed to that extent. But they don't talk unnecessarily. They have started talking about the subject matter. So she learned new techniques, very important techniques for her in her classroom, because it was something that was really bothering her. She also learned to, and this is something that all the teachers learn, they gain a sense of being more in control of the situation, and a sense of empowerment, as we heard from Mauro at the beginning. I suppose that I have a little time left, and I'd like to just show you that this teacher from Mexico had a very similar problem, because we are thinking, actually, the problems that teachers face across the world can be quite similar. And just to share with you what she did, and this is from another of those books which are freely available. She teaches in a middle school in Mexico, smaller class of 35 students. Her problem was that when students came in after breaks, it took them a long time to get settled. And they were misbehaving, for example, by laughing out loud or hitting things, getting up and leaving the room, especially at the end of the class, too early before the end of the class. We encouraged her to think of research questions to explore the problem. So when does misbehavior occur in class? What do I do when misbehavior occurs, and how effective are my actions? Do students agree that they are misbehaving? Simple questions to try to understand. What she did was she kept a journal by recording onto her mobile phone after every class. That's what we mean by a video journal. It's a simple way of, if you've got a mobile phone with a recorder, to record your reflections. She asked a colleague again to observe. You have to be lucky to have a colleague who's willing to observe your class. And she asked students themselves with a questionnaire about whether they agree that they are misbehaving. This is often the most powerful thing to do, is to get students' perspectives. So the question would be, what do students think about this issue? And we don't ask students enough, perhaps, to tell us about their perceptions about problems in the classroom. We have to be a bit brave, don't we, to do that, but it can be extremely useful to do that. So she found that students, she confirmed really, that students misbehaved, especially at the beginning, at the end. And she also found from the colleague that what she tried to do mostly was just punishment, but nothing she did worked. Now, students' perspectives were important here, because they agreed that they misbehaved, but they didn't all agree about what bad behavior is. In other words, she discovered that students needed to have a clearer idea of what is misbehavior. She decided to get students to create their own classroom rules. And she also decided to be more positive. So she asked students to write in their own language, in Spanish, about what rules are and why they are necessary, and also what rules groups thought should be made. So the first one is levantar la mano, is to raise your hand in order to participate. So what happened? When students arrived, she would greet them, and she told them she was happy to see them. If they arrived on time, even if just 2 or 3, she would say thank you for being on time. During the lesson, she'd praise good behavior by saying the class is starting to look like the ideal classroom that you, students, said you want. Another observation, they started arriving on time. They still chatted a lot because they are not angels, but they got focused more quickly. They were working in a more orderly way. Behavior at the end of the class totally changed. Nobody got up early to leave. So it sounds like some kind of magic solution, but these are real stories of real teachers doing real exploratory action research projects. And just to share with you, to summarize this, I think it's a good summary. Maybe you'd like to read that yourselves. So she used to think research is not for her, as we said with the previous speaker as well. She used to try to solve problems immediately, like an octopus, without exploring. She learned to reflect more, but also to focus on data, not just her assumptions, because her assumption was wrong, that all the students were misbehaving, just like the teacher in Nepal. So not just random action, but planning based on exploration. And she feels empowered to solve problems in the future. And this is the major finding from exploratory action research. It's not only to solve particular problems, but also into the future to feel more empowered in your situation. So what we have developed with those teachers in Nepal, in India, in Latin America, has been to have an exploration before the action research, which Dr. Kalawande explained about action research, action plan, but before that, a plan for exploring. That's what exploratory action research is, making sure that you explore the situation very carefully before you do action. I think I better end, but I've given you some examples. And to go further with this, you'll go further with your mentors in the program, but also you could read this book, Handbook for Exploratory Action Research, and yes, I can share the link, but also the main link is at the bottom. You can access all of these resources that I've shared. There is another book for mentors based on work with teachers, with mentors in India, but I hope useful for teachers all around the world who would like to mentor, to help other teachers to do teacher research. So that's more for those who have done it themselves and now want to help others to do it. Okay, so I'm going to end there. I hope it was interesting for you, and I wish you well with your own research, exploratory action research journeys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard sir. It was like we were all engrossed, and we want you to talk along at a stretch, and it would need some time to get back to the link. Okay. Thank you so much. It was fabulous. It was fantastic, and I hope the participants have a great their doubts might have been cleared. I want to say. Okay, so moving ahead, I would like Gauri Sawant ma'am to introduce our next speakers. Over to you, Gauri.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Suchita ma'am, and thank you so much, Richard sir, for this insightful discussion. Well, an action research is indeed an engaging task, and we have very fantastic and eminent guides on this project EMAR, that is Enhancing Mentoring Action Research. We are extremely delighted to have with us Ms. Mariana Serra and Mr. Ruben Mazzi, all the way from Argentina, for this project as well as for this webinar. Mariana Serra is an Argentinian teacher and a licentiate in English. She is attending an MA program in Applied Linguistics. She has studied in the USA and Spain. She is one of the winners of the Optees for Teachers Action Research Awards by British Council for 3 consecutive years, that is 2015, 16 and 17. Along with her experience as a moderator and a lead moderator in classroom-based research, Mariana has also worked in universities and secondary schools teaching English as a foreign language for over 10 years. She is the head of the department coordinating and monitoring school teaching. A grand welcome to Mariana ma'am. Our second fabulous guide on this project is Mr. Ruben Mazzi. He is a university EFL and literature teacher. He teaches as primary, secondary and university levels and at teacher training colleges too. He has coordinated and designed courses for the CPD Department of English in the Ministry of Education at Buenos Aires, Argentina. He also facilitates workshops for the British Council and is an adjunct professor at the University of Buenos Aires. His research interests are genre-based pedagogy, special education need, and EASP. It's great pleasure to have both of you on this project, Ruben sir and Mariana ma'am. And now I request Mariana ma'am and Ruben sir to please proceed with the progress review of EMR project. Thank you very much, and over to you, Ruben.
Okay, thank you very much, Gauri, for the introduction. Yes, and hello everyone. And with Mariana, we have decided to, instead of presenting a formal presentation, to have an open, public, let's say, conversation with Mariana, a sort of thinking aloud reflection on what we have observed in this process of enhancement mentoring research in Maharashtra. Yes. So, Mariana, can I ask you some questions?
Yes, of course, Ruben. Hello, everyone. Good evening. And thank you, Suchita and Hyusha, for your invitations. And also thank you for the wonderful presentations. Yes, Mr. Ujjwal and Dr. Richard Smith. Yes, of course, Ruben. It will be a pleasure.
Well, maybe people here, participants in this webinar, may want to know why have we been invited to take part in this process together with Suchita and Manhyusha?
Yes. Well, we're working, Ruben and I mean, we're working with Suchita, also with Mahusha for a couple of weeks during one of Richard Smith's studies. In fact, I was Mahusha's mentor, and then Mahusha was my mentor too. We had a wonderful experience. Ruben, I would like to know, and maybe participants too, how you welcomed this invitation by Mahusha and Suchita to take part in their project.
Well, I accepted immediately because I saw that they both, Suchita and Mankyushan, were eager, yes, to carry out this project together, and that they were very motivated. So I say, well, together when Mariana also invited me, I said, yes, of course, I would like to be part of this project. So, well, yes, it was a very nice invitation, Mariana. Yes,
Yes.
and Mariana, in this process, we saw we took part also with the other participants in different webinars that were part of the projects. Is there anything special that caught your attention in the webinars?
Yes, as regards the webinars, well, as you know, we have prepared presentations which have to do with teachers' interests. Also, Suchita and Manhyusha have prepared their own presentations. They have worked in breakout rooms. They have worked with Padlet. And what one of the things that caught my attention is how eager participants are to share their own reflections, and the fact that they have realized that we are all part of a community of practice. And as Richard said, and the first presenter also said before, classrooms, we come from different countries, and classrooms are different in the different countries, but there are similarities. So most of our concerns and issues are the same. Is there anything that called your attention during the webinars?
Well, what you mentioned, the last aspect you mentioned, sharing similar concerns, I mean, I would say all over the world, yes, because as teachers, we share the profession, and well, we share also concerns and successes as well. So that is something that always calls my attention, that no matter the context, that we share the same concerns, yes. And another thing that caught my attention was, well, how participants wanted to learn more about exploratory action research and the different roles that both mentors and mentees played in this project so far. So yes. Yeah, and in relation to the progress, because this is something that we also have to share with participants, I think I would say that, and you, Mariana, will probably agree with me, that the project is, I mean, progressing successfully, yes, because all the different actions that were taken in the project by Suchita, Mankyusha, with our help, and all the participants from their roles, I mean, have contributed to making the project a success so far. Yeah. So
Absolutely. Yes, I completely agree with you, Ruben. Well, for the new participants, we would like to say that Suchita and Manhyusha are training teachers to become mentors, and those mentors are also working with mentees in small groups. Ruben, was there any reflection that called your attention during the webinars 1 to 4 as regards what mentors or what participants are gaining out of the process?
Yes, I think that what I observed was that as a, well, both Richard and Mr. Carbanda mentioned in their presentations, this idea of demystifying research with a capital R, or academic or formal research, and that participants, and the same happened to me when I started exploring, with the guide of Richard Smith as well, this exploratory action research process, that they got to see that it's not this kind of formal research, and that it could be, is manageable. Yes, it doesn't mean, as one of the slides showed, it's not having a lot of homework to correct, a lot of planning for the classes, plus the exploration and the research in the classroom. But that classroom-based research is integrated, yes, to the whole process in our teaching, right?
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
well, I don't know, Mariana, if we are running out of time with our conversation, because we may talk for years, I think, about this topic. Yes, but maybe we need to give the floor to other people, okay? Well, thank you, Mariana, for sharing this conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ruben. Thank you for being my partner in this project.
Okay,
this is an innovative way in which you briefed our progress. This is surely something we should, or I should, accept or adapt. Thank you, and I hope that I could listen to you for ages and ages, so that the words were very sweet. Everybody loves the phrase. So thank you for boosting our confidence. We would surely, like Manjusha and I, would surely try to fulfill what you are talking, and surely we won't let anybody disappoint. Okay, thank you for your motivation words. Now I would like to request Mr. Kumawat sir, Mr. Pramod Kumawat sir. He is the state coordinator for Tejas project. May I ask Mr. Kumawat sir, HOD for English. Mr. Kumawat sir, are you there? Mr. Vishal Tade sir. Yes, Pramod Kumawat sir, he is the lecturer. Hello, welcome. You're mute, sir. You're mute. Yes, you're mute. So I would like to introduce Mr. Pramod Kumawat sir. He's the lecturer, and he's the state coordinator for Tejas project. And we are working together since 4.5 years. Yeah. He's a multifaceted personality. So along with English, he has so many other things on his credit. So Mr. Pramod Kumawat sir, please share your words.
Yes, thank you, Suchita. I'm really very happy to be a part of this wonderful webinar here. I'll actually listen the talk of Dr. Ujjwal Karwande sir, Dr. Richard sir, and the innovative way of discussion, Maria and Ruben. I'm really very impressed by them. Really, it's an innovative way, because listening just one way is maybe boring, but you find this innovative way. And in fact, I also learned many new ideas regarding the research, action research. In fact, one thing is very important, that action research is very important for teachers, because teachers faces many problems. So in fact, it's a systematic way of thinking. We may say that. What is action research? Action research is really a systematic way of thinking. So it's a simple definition, I think. So it's a very wonderful program. I would like to congratulate Suchita and her, all the partners, mentors, even researchers are involved in this program. Suchita, I'm really thank you for inviting me for this webinar. Thank you very much.
So it's our pleasure to have you on our platform. Thank you so much, Pramod Kumawat sir. Now may I ask Mr. Vishal Tade sir, lecturer, Diet, Aurangabad. Mr. Vishal Tade sir. His motivation and his active support always make us go beyond our limits. So Okay, maybe Vishal Tade sir is not over here, but I would like to thank him for his support. Now I would like to request Manjusha ma'am to give her.
Hello.
Hello, Manjusha. Ma'am,
Yes,
over
I'm
to
here.
you. No, so Vishal Tade sir is there.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I'm here.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. Hello.
Sir, we are listening. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm so happy to attend this discourse here. Honorable all the dignitaries, my friend Sujita, and all the participants. I see there are more than 80 participants have attended this webinar. This is very interesting. So today I'm very happy to participate in this webinar. And you all have given verbally response to this discourse also. Though action research is not a new term for all of us, but here, what I observed that all the speakers have elaborated the term throughout the entire process of action research so meticulously. For me, the discussion is like recalling everything that have been studied over years. That's why I found it very interesting. Yes, many people think that, as Dr. Karwande also mentioned it, that research is considered as a difficult business, and only because of that, this misconception. Research, most of the teachers don't share the work on it, or don't start work on it. But I would like to suggest all of them that if they want to get maximum result in their classes, and if they want to change the entire teaching learning scenario of their class, they must move on action research. Because action research help them to evaluate what they have been doing in their classes for years, and leads them to contemplate at the point what practical steps should they undertake in their classes. In that way, action research should become a part and parcel of their course of action in the schools. In our training also, we insist teachers to take active action research. And most of the teachers take their action research so seriously and complete it. As Mr. Smith said that action research should be a priority issue of teachers. Yes, I very much agree with him. It should be a priority issue of our teachers, and they have to undertake action research in their day-to-day teaching learning process. That's why I feel that this discussion is very interesting and very enlightening to all the teachers, not only teachers, but teacher educators like me. That's why I am very thankful for the organizers of this webinar, especially Ms. Suchita, for inviting me to share my views here. Very thankful to all of you. Thank you.
Yes, it's our pleasure to listen to you. And now over to you, Manjusha ma'am, because we might not run out of time. So over to Manjusha ma'am. And before that, I would like to announce that there are 2 Google Forms separately. One for the participants who are the active stakeholders of this project, and the other for the Facebook participants. So I request them to fill the forms. Yes, over to you, Manjusha ma'am.
Thank you, Suchita. I may like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Richard Smith for giving an excellent coverage to exploratory action research. What is teacher research? Research needs to reflect teachers' priorities. I also wish to express my gratitude to Dr. Ujjwal Karwande sir for focusing on action research. Thanks, Dr. Karwande sir, for mentoring this team. Hope in future you will be with us for more research. I wish to express my gratitude to Ruben sir and Mariana who are with us in our team, mentoring, supporting at each and every stage. in our macro planning, micro planning. Thanks Ruben sir and Mariana for reviewing our EMAR Maharashtra 2020. I am honored to express my gratitude towards Honorable Dr. Subhash Kamble sir, Dr. Pramod Kumawat sir, Dr. Vishal Taide sir, Shri Ranjit Deshmukh sir, for
Manjusha ma'am, you are not audible.
thanks to Technical Dikshit for providing technical support. I would like to thank you again for making this event successful. Last but not least, I thank you all the EMAR team for showing their even to making this event successful. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Manjusha, for your vote of thanks. Thank you, everybody. But before we leave and before we end this meeting, I would like to request all the participants to appear on the screen so that we can have a nice pic. This is like, for me, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and Richard Smith sir has accepted our invitation, as well as Mariana madam and Ruben sir has accepted our invitation to help us out with this project. So really, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you all the dignitaries who had appeared today, Ruben sir, Mariana madam, Richard sir, and also I would like to thank Mr. Ujjwal Karwande sir and all my RA authorities over here who had directly or indirectly supported us. I would like to give my vote of thanks to Mr. Subhash Kamble sir, who is the director of RA Aurangabad. He had conveyed us his good wishes for our project. So on behalf of all the stakeholders of this project, I would like to thank all the dignitaries or the speakers who had arrived here and shared their knowledge on the action research topic. So thank you very much. And I would like to say thank you, and again, stay happy, stay well. Thank you very much. Bye there. Namaste from India. Yes, Richard, so would you like to say something?
No, just to say goodbye, but to say thank you very much, Suchita, Manjusha, for organising this, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. You would have a nice pick now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Friends and participants. Bye. Bye.
Bye and
Bye,
thank
everybody.
you. Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
bye.
Excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Share your pics. Yes.
Thank you.
Bye there. Stay happy. Stay safe.
Okay.
And see you in next session.
Okay. Bye. Have a great day,
Bye
Richard sir,
bye.
Ruben
Thank
sir.
you.